Every year, thousands of students across the country begin their flight training. Whether it's overcoming fear, a career in aviation, or the enjoyment of flying, students start by enrolling in flight school. On the Sunshine Coast, Go Fly Aviation, operated by Damien Wills and his team of instructors, work hard, have fun, and teach everyday people to fulfill their dream of taking flight.
We were grounded. The FAA was very polite in the way they handled us, but we weren't allowed to carry on and fly in USA airspace, fly from Honolulu to LA, unless we had an HF radio installed. Long story short there, we had to rent one, stick it in, install it, and we thought, we'd flown off around the world, well, you know, now, okay, it's Americans being Americans again, we'll conform. So we rented one at a huge cost, stuck it in, got it working, but we only had it working with our iPod earbuds, and which on the ground without the airplane running was fine. So, and it had a loudspeaker, which you can't really hear. But anyway, so FAA did the inspection. They said, you know, is it working? We had to show them it's working, and yeah, it's working. Okay, you guys can go. As we're leaving the island now, we hit into 35 knot headwinds, which we knew by the time we climbed a certain, like 5 grand, we'd be out of the headwinds, and there was this carpet of cloud which was forecast all the way to the LA coast. So off we go. We're about an hour into the flight, and the controllers that are still speaking to us, we're still just getting VHF with the controllers, and we're getting relays from the airliners. They say, we tried the HF radio, we tried it before, like after taking off, tried to get hold of San Francisco radio, and we didn't. So like James said, it's fine, man, and we carried on going. Next minute on the VHF radio, Honolulu radio says, San Francisco says, if you do not establish good two-way communication with San Francisco, you need to turn back. So the problem was we didn't have good headsets. It wasn't integrated. So I took very quickly a spare set of headset, cut the wires, put on a jack, connected it to the iPod little plug, boom, 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 stuck it in, put it on. San Francisco radio, we got them. Now, HF radio is, you know, that one like the radio hams. It's not luxury like a VHF radio. So it's a bit of a struggle, but anyway, we got them. So we carried on. On the hour, every hour, we called them. Now, HF, and this is the last real hairy story of the trip, so I'm going to tell it in a little bit of detail. When you're flying at night with those screens, even on the lowest brightness, it's too bright. So when we were set up and everything's going, we're cruising, because we're up there for a long time, we had these little cotton towels that we put over so that your eye hasn't got the glow and you have a reasonable VFR kind of contact with the world out there. We covered the instruments, and this particular night was very dark, there was no moon, and you know, it's beautiful because we were flying east, so the stars are rising all the time. You don't get a definite horizon. It's black sea, which now had like cloud over it, but because there was no moon, it was very dark, and your horizon is fuzzy, but it's enough, and the autopilot's doing the thing, but you like to keep contact with it in case the autopilot should die. You want to try and fly VFR as much as possible. And I was doing radio, and just before, when you do the radio, you've got to give them your latitude, longitude, etc., altitude, and tell them system's okay on the hour, every hour. And you need to lift up this towel to read the longitude and latitude. And just before I lifted up, I noticed an airliner about there. And the reason I noticed that is before we had the HF radio, when we saw an airliner, we would always call them and try and get them to see us and give them our position, then they would relay our position. They were our HF radio. So we were able to contact people most times. You couldn't generally get an airliner. You know, it's a wonderful network around the planet. There are millions of airliners all the time. And this time, of course, I looked at them, noted them, but I didn't speak to them. I got San Francisco radio. But when I tried to call San Francisco radio, it got a bit busy. I had my towel up, and the primary frequency didn't work. Now, they give you 2 frequencies, a primary and a secondary, and the reason is the atmospherics change, and the primary frequency stops working at a certain time in the night, so you go to your secondary. So I dialed in the secondary, and so I was getting a little bit busy and distracted. On autopilot, everything's dandy. and I did the radio call, and first call worked perfectly. They got me, I told them what's what, they said it was all cool, and I put my microphone back and I put the towel back over, but now I can't see a thing out there because I'm night blind. Just about, like, I'm settling in, but the hair on my arms is starting to tell me something's wrong. It's like, something's wrong, and I lift up the towel, and horizon straight, airspeed, altitude, everything's great. I look at this and I suddenly realize, you know, when you're on autopilot, the screen isn't dead still. It's doing this all the time. There's a slight pixelation of the horizon, but this time it is dead still, frozen. And then I go cold, lift up the other one, which is a completely different system. It was our backup system. I lift it up. We're at an angle like that. It's telling me that, and the airspeeds run away to Vienna, and I like, and I grab the stick, I kill the throttle, I grab the stick so it can't move, I kill the throttle, and I stick my head against the glass to look for some VFR reference to make sure, before I do a correction, because one of them is wrong, and I shouted, James, wake up, and I look, and the airliner that was there was now in my peripheral vision there, so we were like that. It was like, we were over 90 going like that. And so I'd killed the throttle, and I slowly, very slowly, because we were still very heavy, slowly pulled it out of the dive, and I'm like going on instinct, and going on the little white, the little red airliner that I was seeing, and starting to trust that instrument. I got us up. It's suddenly, like, James, what? And he realized, and I said, don't touch anything. And like, we got to this point where it's like, and then it all went dead quiet. It normally goes dead quiet just before you go into a spin. And he's like, and then I looked, airspeed, boom, everything fine, added power, and then we were fine, and slowly our night vision came back and everything was fine. So that was the closest, because if I did something wrong there, we would have pulled the wings off, you know. It would have been the end. It would have been interesting. So that was quite, the very thing that was meant to make us safe, the HF radio, had actually frozen the EFIS. When the EFIS froze, it disengaged the autopilot. When the autopilot disengaged, we were very well trimmed. The airplane turned and started diving, and we had a constant speed propeller, so the RPM didn't go up. So my sensors had sensed something, but there was nothing. So it just done this slowly through through the talk on the radio and everything. So that was close. We never again ever both fell asleep. On that trip up till then, we would often fall asleep, and but I'll stay awake, you fly, but you doze off. You know, you're up there for hours and flying, but that never happened again in any flight. So, but and then so we got to LA. We met. Mike was with Matt in his Eagle. They met us up the coast here. We flew in here. We stopped right over there. And that was the end of the trip for James.